Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I think we can start. Thank you to our esteemed friends in the media, stakeholders, both physical and on the virtual platform. We thought that you would have realized that we've not been as regular as we used to be with regard to our cluster briefings because of the inquiries that have been taking place, which have been taking quite a lot of the focus of Parliament and the chairpersons. Or inquiry that is led by the Standing Committee, the SCOPA, and then the other one that is led by the Ad Hoc Committee, which has had Parliament busy at work. So it's quite a lot of work of oversight that is taking place, and it has sort of a little bit disrupted our program. But thank you very much. We thought that we must have this week the cluster on social services, but also combined with the peace and security to deal with some of the issues that these committees have been focusing on. That will include issues such as bullying at schools, school readiness for exams, the situation at the institutions of higher learning, as well as the oversight work and visits that has been happening and led by the committees at schools and also at correctional services facilities. So we have got the 4 chairpersons that will be giving us feedback and account of the work that has been taking place, led by those committees. We've got the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education and Training, Mr. Debukolisiye. We've got the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Basic Education, Ms. Komujo Maimela. And then we do also have the chairperson of the Select Committee on Sciences and Creative Industries, Mr. Makifeni. And then also the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Correctional Services, Ms. Humuzo Ramulobeng. I'm going to start with the Honorable Chairperson of the Select Committee on Science and Creative Industries, Mr. Makifeni, to open. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of the session. Let me take this opportunity to extend my greeting to the media houses amongst us, colleagues from my right hand, and also all the media platforms, especially the people of this country. Chairperson, today, it is a summation, as you are correctly saying, that of our oversight as mandated by the Constitution, which took place in the Eastern Cape from the 20th to the 24th October, to monitor the state of schools infrastructure, particularly in rural and peri-urban schools. On the first day of the oversight, the committee noted with concern the poor state of non-achievement of school infrastructure targets by the Eastern Cape Department of Education, where in the 25th financial year, only 10% of its infrastructure targets were achieved, yet over 99% of the budget was spent. This prompts the committee to continue to further investigate why the province is performing poorly in this regard, so that consequent management is urgently implemented. The committee also noted with concern the department highlighted that the province needs about 7.2 billion to address its school infrastructure challenges, whereas they receive 1.8 billion annually, which according to them is not enough. However, the committee raised the concern as to why the province has not achieved much with little that they have. The committee noted with concern that schools in the Amatole West have no access to tap water or backup water sources and must rely on rainwater as part of their water supply. This is very concerning as children are denied their basic right to clean water for drinking, sanitation, and hygiene purposes. The committee urged the department to engage the district municipalities to resolve the matter and report back to the committee within 7 working days. The committee was concerned over the aging and debilitating infrastructure in rural school of the Amatole Western District, lack of kitchen facilities for the NSNP program, lack of classroom for grade R learners, and schools still having asbestos roof. The committee therefore resolved to request the department to urgently fix areas within schools where potential health hazards were identified and come up with a long-term plan and to address these infrastructural challenges. The committee also urged the department to assist the school with their budgeting in terms of their maintenance budget so that the monies are used for their intended purposes of maintaining school infrastructure. The committee also provided the department with deadlines for filling of teacher vacancies as well as school management vacancies and provide school transport for all deserving learners who currently does not have transport and they are walking very long distances. The committee noted with concern that these schools are being considered as candidates for merger or closure due to the low learner numbers. However, irrational closures of these schools may create a crisis for local community due to the current crisis affecting learners' access to scholar transport. The committee calls for the department to prioritize the issue of security, community policing forums, and police visibility in school with high risk of theft and vandalism by the criminals within the community. No infrastructure project should be implemented in high-risk areas without security plan being in place. As we identified that computers and other learning material are just vanishing whilst they are put in classrooms. Also, as the select committee, we also noted with disdain the misconduct or the criminality of the deputy principal of the school in East London that is involved in child trafficking. And we are calling for the department also to act swiftly to that act of criminality. A report also has been requested within no time. Can you imagine the so-called pastor and the deputy principal using our future to extend her own ends. Also, we noted the bullying of kids in one of the schools around Western Cape. Our argument as a select committee is very clear. This is a continuation of a racist act that continues in our school, especially those schools that were regarded as Model C schools. We know the incidences in Pretoria high schools, and now is this one. So we are urging the department here in the Western Cape, because if nothing is being taken to address this, we are fearing a situation of an uncontrollable situation in this country. Because if it is not attended as such, because it can't be treated as a mere bullying, but we need to go beyond to that particular situation. Also, we went to Nelson Mandela Metro, the Politel Municipality, where we also look into make oversight in terms of the school, in terms of the cultural facilities that are there. It is very disappointing indeed to discover that a lot has not been done. Instead, our infrastructure there are becoming worse. And when we look, especially a lot of money that has been utilized, there is no clear accountability, especially to our museum, where the archives, where the history of this country, specifically of that area, is being kept. There is no clear direction and a lot of money has been utilized. We raised our rejection when we were told that the museum is going to be moved from where it is in the township back to the CBD. We said it cannot, but we need to get a clear direction and also a clear plan on how to overturn that situation and also how to save whatever that is being left there. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Feni. The next presentation comes from the Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Basic Education, Honorable Maimela.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mloten. Good morning to the members of the media, the fellow chairpersons, and all the stakeholders that are here today. We decided to brief the members of the media and our stakeholders on, firstly, the state of readiness for the 2025 NSC examinations, and of course also address the issue of bullying in our schools, and further also speak briefly on the oversight visit that the Portfolio Committee undertook to the Free State province. It is always our honor to address the media and to reflect on two critical and interlinked matters, which the first is the readiness of our system for the 2025 National Senior Certificate Examinations and the persistent and deeply concerning challenge of bullying in our schools. We believe that both of these issues speak to the heart of our education system. They speak to the integrity of our assessment process and the well-being of our learners. As the committee's responsibility, as mandated by Parliament, is to provide oversight and to ensure accountability and to promote continuous improvement in the delivery of quality education to all learners, regardless of where they come from or which school they attend. As a committee, we've received briefings from the Department of Basic Education and Umalusi and provincial education departments in the form of the Free State province. We are satisfied that the system is ready, and Umalusi's independent audit of readiness has confirmed that the necessary systems such as registration, printing, storage, distribution of question papers, marking, moderation, and results management are in place. This readiness, however, is not just about logistics. It is about ensuring that every learner has an equal and fair opportunity to demonstrate their learning capabilities. It is about safeguarding the integrity of our examinations so that every certificate awarded reflects genuine effort and achievement. We commend the department and the provincial departments and schools for the extensive preparations undertaken to ensure that examination centers are secure, markers are trained, and that all systems are aligned for smooth administration. During our engagements with the department, we did mention or ask about unforeseen circumstances, if indeed they have in plans to mitigate unforeseen circumstances, and also because exams had already started last week on Thursday, if there had been any incidences ever since the exam started. And we were assured that indeed the department is ready for any unforeseen circumstances, be it weather issues. They've got exam centers that they've prepared to take learners in case of such unforeseen circumstances. But further also that, for example, you would have heard in Westbury in Gauteng, where there was an incident at one of the school and one of the learners could not write, but we were assured that the department in Gauteng is making means to ensure that they mitigate such circumstances. So our message to all the learners that are sitting for their examinations, to the class of 2025, is that they are not alone, that the nation stands behind them, and they must stay focused, disciplined, confident, and they have been prepared for this moment. And they must remember that their future and our country's future are intertwined, and that their success strengthens our democracy and our economy and our shared hope. Now, as it relates to the incident of bullying in schools, while we take pride in our examination readiness, we cannot ignore a challenge that continues to undermine the safety, dignity, and mental health of too many learners, which is bullying. The committee has been deeply concerned by the rising number of reported bullying incidents in our schools, including physical, verbal, psychological, and cyberbullying. Behind every statistic is a child, a learner whose confidence, learning journey, and sense of belonging are being eroded by fear and intimidation. Education cannot thrive in an environment of fear, and a learner who feels unsafe cannot learn, and a teacher who fears discipline cannot teach effectively. Of course, you would have seen that the committee undertook a visit to Milnerton High after the incident, after we all learned of the incident, the horrific incident that we saw on our social media spaces. And we've engaged with the school, we've engaged with the district and the department on what actions were in place to ensure that something like this never happened again. What we have noted, though, is that majority of our schools do not have a comprehensive anti-bullying policy. What they do have is code of conduct, which just touches the issue of of bullying, but it's not a comprehensive policy, and it does not give learners an understanding or a comprehension of what they should do when such incidences happen or when they are affected by bullying. And as a result, we've directed the department to assist all our schools to ensure that there is comprehensive anti-bullying policies. And of course, also they must create reporting mechanisms that also include learners being able to anonymously report about incidents of bullying. As a portfolio committee, our vision is for a schooling system that is safe, inclusive, and empowering, where excellence and compassion coexist. And our oversight will continue to ensure that safety measures are enforced and incidents are tracked, and that schools have the support they need to act decisively. One of the issues that also concerned us was the availability of psychosocial support. In the instance of Milnerton High incident, we learned when we were there that the learners and the parents had not received adequate psychosocial support, although the province did mention that they did, but we then learned that it was not necessarily adequate psychosocial support, and that might be made by the fact that only one social worker is attached to 30 schools. So the schools have to apply to the district, and they have to wait to get a social worker to the school to assist learners with psychosocial support. And that's one of the concerns that we've raised with the department, to say we need to come up with a strategy to ensure that there is school counselors at every school. With regard to the Milnerton High School incident, we were given an assurance that a disciplinary hearing was going to be held on Saturday. And we did demand that the province and the district send us a full report on the outcomes of that disciplinary hearing. What the process is and what we understand is that after the hearing, whatever sanction, whatever the recommendations of the disciplinary committee, they still would have to be taken to the district and the province for a final approval as per the South African Schools Act mentions. So we are awaiting for that comprehensive report on that outcome of the disciplinary hearing. We do know that the learners are on precautionary suspension. We did raise concern with the amount of time it took the school to place those learners on precautionary suspension, because they continued to threaten and bully that learner even after the parent had reported to the school management. But overall, we also noticed and noted that there was a culture of bullying in the school. And to a certain extent, there is a coach of a certain rugby team who we believe also enables such, because there are incidences that have been reported to him according to what we got, and there were no actions. But also that there was a previous incident that was reported to the school, and the school could not account as to what did they do with it. The principal confirmed to knowing about the incident that related to the very same learner, but there was no clear indication as to what did the school do with that incident. So those are some of the findings we've made, and we did then instruct that there should be consequence management and there should be accountability. Now, in conclusion, we undertook an oversight visit to the Free State province to assess the state of schooling infrastructure in the province and the state of the NSC readiness, and also to assess the NSC program, the scholar transport, and also many other issues. Our findings or our observations as a committee: one, we visited the Lejolopuza district, and in the Welkom area, what concerned us the most was the state of schooling infrastructure that was also made worse by sewer that was running into the schools. We tried to engage with the municipality when we were there, but they were not available for engagements. But Welkom High, we found that there is sewer within the school, and that did not present a conducive environment for learning. We did speak to the department, and we are planning as a portfolio committee to call to have a joint sitting with the portfolio committee of COGTA and to call the Minister of COGTA to deal with these issues of tariffs, of billings of schools that are very high, and that municipalities at times just come to schools and they just close water. We were also concerned about the persistent use of language policy as a barrier for access. In one of the schools we visited, in 3 of the schools that we visited in the Free State, we found that Afrikaans was still used as a medium of instruction, and it was still used as a barrier. That language policy was still used as a barrier for access for many other learners. We were impressed though with the academic performance of many of the schools there, especially the technical schools, and we were given assurance and also given the evidence that we saw. We are assured that the province is ready to administer the NSC examination. And of course, they've been performing well. They've been number 1. And given the performance we saw, we are assured that they are likely to stay number 1, because indeed the academic performance was really commendable. The province, like any other provinces, are facing serious financial constraints. Maintenance budget to the school. So the school infrastructure is dilapidating, as Honorable Feni would have said, and the maintenance budget is inadequate. Our engagements with the department and with the FFC is that we need to review the funding model of our schools if we're going to deal with the inequalities that persist. I think those were the few ways or the few issues that we wanted to brief the media on this morning. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Maimela. Just to indicate that, as we normally do, we, at the conclusion of this media briefing, will circulate the speaking notes that the chairpersons have presented, together with some audio of their presentations immediately after the media briefing. Thank you very much. I wish to invite the chairperson of Higher Education and Training, Portfolio Committee, Honorable Litsie.
Thank you very much. Good morning to fellow chairpersons, program director, and everybody here and at home. The committee conducted an oversight visit to University of Fort Hare in the aftermath of the distraction stemming from stakeholder protests. Indeed, it is a sad reality that we are confronted with at the University of Fort Hare. The university has lost inavailable infrastructure, which is buildings, ICT, and equipment that is critical for teaching, learning, and research, just because stakeholders could not sit together and engage at that institution. We're deeply concerned that it required such extensive damage to the university property for the university stakeholders to get the attention of council and management and to finally acknowledge and respond to student grievances. The outcome reflects a troubling pattern of neglect and failure to engage proactively with student bodies and other stakeholders. The estimated cost of damage there, we're told, is between 250 million and 500 million. And had the university management and council consulted students on how to move forward while a process to amend the SRC constitution was underway, some of the things that occurred in the past few weeks could have been averted. We wish to express our deep concerns regarding several pressing issues affecting that institution. Number one is governance transparency. The extension of the Vice Chancellor's term was executed without consultation with the institutional forum, undermining the principles of participatory governance and stakeholder engagement. In fact, Council indicated to us that they did not see the need to consult with institutional forum as they were extending the term that they had already agreed on, which is a very troubling confirmation that came from council itself. On student housing conditions, the state of student residences at the University of Fort Hare is alarming. Numerous facilities, in our view, fail to meet the Department of Higher Education and Training minimum norms and standards for student housing. The reports indicated that some residences there have lacked hot water for several years due to neglect and dysfunctional geysers. In fact, if you go to university-owned residences there, each and every room, they've got what we call a VASCOM. Like, I don't know what is a VASCOM in any other language, but everybody has got a VASCOM because there's no hot water. There's never been hot water in a number of years there. So even students, they've accepted that they need to make alternate measures. Some of those residences, there's one called 2.3. It's one of the new buildings that government has spent millions of rents on. It's moving up, the building itself is moving away from each other. So there's a huge crack in one place where one day we'll wake up and students on one side, maybe they'll have 2.3A and 2.3B because the building is moving away from each other, which is a serious concern for us because the Department of Labor, if they can go there, they will, if they have certificate of occupancy there, they will revoke it immediately because it has safety concerns for students. But safety and security deficiencies, the security infrastructure is severely compromised, biometric access control systems are non-functional, and security personnel are not equipped with necessary tools of trade to perform their duties effectively. This poses a significant risk to the safety of students and staff. We urge the relevant authorities to address these issues with urgency, transparency, and accountability. The well-being of students and the integrity of the institution depend on it. In fact, to this effect, we had received, the university reported 2 deaths of 2 female students, one right in front of the main entrance, and we're told that she hanged herself in a very small tree with very weak branches, or the branch that we're told that she hanged herself with is too weak. It's too small. It's a very small tree. But security there could have seen this thing if indeed, one, they were effective, or two, the child was hanging from that. On right to protest, we affirm the constitutional right of students and all stakeholders to protest and express their grievances. This right is a cornerstone of our democracy and must be safeguarded with vigilance and integrity. However, we urge student leadership to exercise this right responsibly and ensure that their legitimate concerns are not exploited or derailed by individuals with ulterior motives. It is imperative that protests remain peaceful and constructive, reflecting the values and aspirations of student body. The committee unequivocally condemns any acts of arson, vandalism, and destruction of university property. Such actions undermine the very cause they claim to support and inflict harm on the broader academic community. We call upon the relevant authorities to investigate these incidents thoroughly and ensure that those responsible are held accountable in accordance with the law. It will never take a crisis or distractions for leadership to listen. We urge the administration, not only at the University of Fort Hare, but all our institutions, to reflect on the systematic issues that would have led to this moment at Fort Hare and to commit to meaningful, transparent, and sustained dialogue with students moving forward. The University of Free State decided to discontinue provisional registration from 2026 academic year, meaning that students who have outstanding debt will not be able to register, given that they will not have an opportunity to secure registration while still looking for funds to pay the debt. What is concerning there is that NSFAS funded students who are supposed to be funded for a full cost of study, due to the institution charging accommodation fees higher than the NSFAS cap, those students will end up owing the institution. And this plan by the university, they would have excluded these poor students, that every system that we have would have indicated that they don't have anybody. That is why NSFAS is funding them. And this phenomenon that university-owned residences charge more than the NSFAS cap should be investigated across, because if you are doing that, it means you are tactically excluding poor students who are funded by NSFAS and others. The manner in which this particular university handled the protest was also concerning. Students were brutally assaulted by private security and police for protesting peacefully, which escalated the peaceful protest to violence, resulting in damage to university buildings. We are concerned that the eviction of students from campus, especially those who stay far away from home, while we understand that this is the last resort to protect property and lives, it also puts students' safety at risk, especially females who are already vulnerable. Doesn't make sense to us that a university will issue a notice on Sunday night saying we're giving students 24 hours to vacate and go home. It shows that sometimes our university management don't really understand the issues. I mean, these students of NSFAS, once they've received their allowances, it ends within 2 days. So 10 days after they've received their allowances, you are telling them that they must leave Bloemfontein and go home, and home might be in Umtata, home might be in Gauteng, home might be in KwaZulu-Natal. It means they must then fundraise this transport money from somewhere. So if you are giving them 24 hours, it really doesn't make sense, especially at the University of Free State, where we believe that the escalation, the security brutality that the university engaged in, there was really unnecessary. Would see in videos or on videos that university or this private security went to student residences, throwing bricks themselves at student residences and all of that. So it was really unnecessary. And for university management to take this decision, in our view, it was really unnecessary. The committee would have now recommended to the Minister of Higher Education and Training to appoint an independent assessor at the University of Fort Hare. This is not an easy decision, but when you look at the decisions that were taken by that council and the management, and would engage with them for close to 14 hours in one, the marathon meeting, you could tell that council shame. They've got their own issues. You ask them a simple question, they could not really answer us. We arrived at the conclusion that the minister should then evoke section 43 and 44 to put in an administrator to investigate the fitness to hold office of that institution. On NSFAS, student funding continues to remain a challenge. It is concerning that NSFAS continues to pay accommodation fees to private accommodations that do not meet the minimum norms and standards of student housing. This is due to corruption by NSFAS appointed accreditors who collude with service providers to get their accommodation accredited, even though they fall short of their required standard. We're also concerned that despite NSFAS securing additional funds to address the funding shortfalls and fund the defunded students, we continue to receive complaints from students who have not been paid. Delays in the finalization of the payment process will have dire consequences for these students who may face financial exclusion in 2026. NSFAS application for 2026 academic year is open. We would like to urge prospective students to apply in time. The closing date there will be on the 15th of November. The committee conducted an oversight visit to KwaZulu-Natal, and one of the focus areas of the oversight was infrastructure. We are concerned about what we observed at the Nkandla campus of the Umfolozi TVET College. The new campus was funded by National Skills Fund to expand access to education and training, especially in remote rural areas. As we did talk about the student residences, we found that the residence was occupied in 2023. However, the ceiling was already falling in student rooms and showers. There was no maintenance of the residence, but despite this, the department had allocated funds for the operation. Yeah. Let me drink water first. The department had allocated funds for this TVET college to be operationalized. At the University of Zululand, we're pleased with the completion of the new infrastructure project. This includes the engineering building, which boasts the state-of-the-art lecture rooms and teaching and learning equipment and laboratories, and new residences, including those that were refurbished. Our main concern was regarding old residences that were not fit to accommodate students. We are concerned that student safety was compromised, given that the windows of some rooms were broken, the butler gate could not be closed, and toilets were blocked. We urged the university to decommission some of these problematic residences and refurbish them. At DUT in Dumiso campus, we saw residences that were decommissioned due to structural defects. Instability of a steep embankment was reported, which had affected the stability of structures, causing them to crack and to settle differential. The structural assessment report identified water damage in the ceilings, several cracks in building walls and floor surfaces, and algae forming of the walls, on the halls. Similar structural defects were identified on the engineering building, which has just been completed. Walls were separating as well, which raised questions regarding the professional advice provided before the commencement of that construction. The Department of Labor has also issued instruction for the stoppage of that constructions. This was concerning because it will require additional funding to bring the building to an acceptable state. The construction of 100-bed residence at the University of KwaZulu-Natal Westville campus was abandoned by the contractor. It was reported that the contractor did not have funds to continue with the construction and file for bankruptcy. An additional 800-bed oval residence, which was built a few years ago, was decommissioned due to not receiving a certificate of occupancy from the municipality. The university continues to pay 30 million rands annually in loan repayments for the accommodation that they are not using. It is a serious concern in the sector that contractors and other professionals get away with murder for shoddy work. At no point were these contractors named and blacklisted by these institutions. Lastly, the committee is concerned that our senior officials in the department, from the DG to his DDGs, continue to mislead the committee on numerous occasions. The committee had actually suggested that the chairperson must write to the president and ask him to move the DG to another department because of this. If you look at all the challenges in the sector, the department must take blame for failing to do their oversight work at all these institutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Chair Litsia. The last presentation will be from the Peace and Security Cluster, the Honorable Chairperson for the Portfolio Committee on Correctional Services, Honorable Ramlobe.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matapo. Good morning, colleagues, greetings. My colleagues, committee chairs and the social service cluster. I'm just being co-opted into this media briefing. I don't belong into this cluster. I thought I indicate that. The mistake I did was to meet Mr. Matapo last week, Tuesday, after the portfolio committee. And we had a discussion, then boom, today I'm scheduled for a media briefing. So history now teaches me I must run away from him every time I see him. Stakeholders, members of the media who are present here and also on the virtual platform. The media briefing today will focus on the oversight visit that the Portfolio Committee has done in the Eastern Cape and also in the Western Cape, and also make an indication on the last week Portfolio Committee meeting on the issues of supplying of bread and also long-term contracts of the department. On the oversight to the Eastern Cape and the Western Cape, the Portfolio Committee undertook an oversight visit to correctional centers on the 7th and the 10th of October. The focus on our visit was mainly on infrastructure, rehabilitation, skills programs or development, and the most important part, remand detainees, the female section, and also the juvenile section of inmates. The centers that we have visited, which are announced visit, were 9 correctional centers, Mthatha, Medium, Mthatha, Remand, Anduli, East London, the female section, East London, Maximum, St. Albans, Medium, St. Albans, Maximum, and Oudtshoorn Correctional Center. In addition to that, the Portfolio Committee had 2 unannounced visits in the George Correctional Facility and including Mdantsane Correctional Facility. On overcrowding, it's the one biggest challenge that the department is facing across all correctional facilities except 2 correctional facilities which are triple Ps, being Kutama, Sentumule, and Mangaung. Overcrowding plays the biggest challenge and having a negative impact on the work and the mandate of the department into providing secure and human detention of inmates and rehabilitation of offenders. As of the 31st of March 2025, the approved bed space in DCS facilities across is 107,067,000, but it has 166,000 inmates that are incarcerated. And this is inclusive of remand detainees as well. Of this number, 61,891 are remand detainees, and 107,117 were sentenced offenders. So the numbers can slightly change from March to now. I can assure you would have more than that. And the number on foreign national inmates and state patients who also contribute significantly to the overcrowding in facilities stands on the total of 25,445, which this is the foreign national inmate population. And out of that 25,000, 13,000 of those are those who are sentenced. 12,000 of those are those who are remand detainees. Or foreign national inmates who are in DCS facilities across the country. And this is a stats that ends in March 2025. We haven't received the latest stats and we hope we'll get it. And on state patients, the department has 315 state patients who are incarcerated or remanded in correctional facilities instead of being in mental health institutions. Remand detainees also contribute significantly to overcrowded facilities, especially those who have been granted bail but cannot afford an amount as low as 300 rands. In the 2024-2025 financial year, 2,670 remand detainees could not afford bail as less than 1,000 rands. Section 49G of the Correctional Service Act 111 of 1998 states that remand detainees who have been in custody for more than 24 months should be referred to the court for their cases to be assessed. At the end of March 2025, 4,112 remand detainees had been in custody for more than 24 months. And a case in point is that when we did an oversight last week, on the 7th to the 10th, and we did Mthatha Correctional Facility, on the remand detainee side of the female section, we encountered a female who has been remanded since 2019 in Mthatha Correctional Facility. She made an indication that this is a 7th year, and her matter has not yet started to be discussed in court. But she's in a correctional facility for more than 7 years. So these are matters that the department takes for referral to the courts. And during our oversight in the Eastern Cape, the committee found that the approved bed space of Mthatha remand is 679, while there were 1,542 inmates. And approved bed space for East London remand section, it's 477, but it had 1,127 inmates. And St. Albans remand section, which is medium B, had approved bed space of 1,305. And when in the oversight, there were 2,066 offenders. On infrastructure, which is the major contributor on correctional facilities across, even those facilities we have done oversight on, which is Gauteng, KZN, the committee observed the similar instances on infrastructure dilapidation. But what was new in the Eastern Cape was the issue of water leakages and buildings and the shortage of water around the community of Eastern Cape. In East London, there was no shelter to the access control, which it shouldn't be. And most of the facilities were old and highly dilapidated. On kitchens, we have observed and we're concerned as the portfolio committee about the non-functioning kitchen equipment in many of the facilities we've visited, and further concerns out of the date compliance certificates, inconsistent signing of a register for food tasting, ceilings which were in poor conditions with paint peeling off, including paint peeling off from the roof in kitchens where food was supposed to be prepared, which faces the health hazards for those who are preparing the food. On vacancies, the number of vacancies in the Eastern Cape, it's a worrying factor, especially on the security structure. And this has negatively impacted on a number of offenders who could not participate in skills workshops and other programs. The committee has advised the department to ensure that all funded vacancies must be filled. And in this matter, it must be expedited with agency. On skills workshop, we were quite impressed as the portfolio committee with the various skills programs provided to offenders in the workshops. However, we were concerned about the low number of offenders that are participating in those workshops, which was mostly ascribed to a lack of security personnel, which a bearer of it was the vacancies. On contrabands, the committee was also concerned about the number of cell phones which were found in correctional centers. For instance, in St. Albans, 786 cell phones were found between April and September this year, and 7 officials were only caught with contrabands. We have urged the department to ensure that criminal cases are opened against officials found compromising security in correctional facilities. The committee further encourages the department to invest in technology that will detect and prevent contraband coming into facilities. And St. Albans should be a case in point, because the system that they've developed, once it has completed in being enrolled, would be able to assist the department on that detection part. On water shortages, the committee has noted water shortages as a general problem in the Eastern Cape with municipal variations. We have recommended to the department that they must find the long-term solutions to water shortages, especially which it affects correctional facilities nearby. Nkanduli was a case in point in that, which would have run for 2 to 3 days to an extent of 2 weeks without water. On the review of price of bread and centralization of procurement and long-term contracts, on Tuesday, the Portfolio Committee was briefed by the Minister of Correctional Services on the promise he made to review the contract governing the pricing of bread from suppliers. This meeting arose out of a number of meetings the two parties we had in May, which we had called the department to appear in May after we had complaints or letters written to the Portfolio Committee that were raising questions on how the cost of bread is being inflated in the current contracts. And out of that meeting, the minister made a commitment to go back and review the price of bread, because there were concerns with regards to how the bread prices were inflated. In that, the minister then appeared before the Portfolio Committee, which was last week. Thereafter, the committee was informed that the department and suppliers have reached an agreement on a flat rate approach to ensure the same prices are applicable in each region. The committee welcomes this information and the savings that will be achieved from the reduction in bread prices. The new negotiated prices came into effect on the 1st of October, and the committee commends the department for including in the service level agreement with suppliers the flexibility to review prices. The committee has also asked the department to provide timelines on the investigations into whether there was any collusion between DCS officials and suppliers in the inflation of bread prices. The department was also encouraged to investigate other perishable and non-perishable items to see if prices have been inflated. The committee also asked the department to prioritize fixing equipment in bakeries and procuring new equipment where required to ensure that bakeries are fully operational. This is part of self-sufficiency and sustainable model will also lead to cost saving to the department, because bread is a highly consumed item in correctional facilities. On centralization of procurement on long-term contracts, the committee also asked the department to explain the reasons for centralization of procurement and long-term contracts. The committee noted the Auditor General has consistently raised a finding on the splitting of cases in goods and services are procured through numerous low-value transactions instead of using long-term contracts, potentially avoiding a competitive bidding process. The committee noted that the department appointed project management office officials and consultants to assist in securing contracts for perishable and non-perishables, cleaning materials and coal. The committee called on the department to reduce its reliance on consultants and ensure that at the end of these contracts, necessary skills have been transferred to officials. On the Auditor General's report, the 2024-2025 Auditor General report noted that contracts was awarded to bidders based on evaluation and adjudication criteria that differed from those stipulated in the original invitation for bidding, as required by Treasury Regulation 16A 6.3 subsection A and subsection B. The AG stated that this non-compliance was identified in the procurement processes for the panel appointed to provide perishable and non-perishable to the department. In conclusion, a matter came before the portfolio committee, which was brought by News 24 on the stabbing of an official by inmates in St. Albans. We inquired about the matter, and it was indeed indicated that a stabbing has happened, but an investigation has been ensued. We have requested a report through the department and through the National Commissioner that once the investigation has been concluded, they should provide a report to the portfolio committee. And this incident happens in August, I think in August or first week of September, where a similar incident of 4 officials being stabbed in the Oudtshoorn Correctional Facility by inmates in retaliation of a search or an unannounced search that had happened in that facility, which 4 officials were therefore stabbed in that. So on this one of St. Albans, we are alerted, or what the request, the report, when it was brought to our attention by News 24, it alleged that it was on the inmates were retaliating on a basis that the portfolio committee had visited St. Albans and they were denied to interact with the portfolio committee. So that stands as an allegation until the conclusion of the investigation and the report is given before us. So, Mr. Matapo, thank you so much, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ramulubeng. I see that you have surpassed the record set by Honorable Itzi by 1 minute. Because when we were outside, I said, you must stick all of you to 10 minutes. And you said, no, I don't have a problem with 10 minutes, but Honorable, you must be worried about Honorable Itzi. But I see that you have surpassed him completely with flying colors there. No, we thought that we must include you in this cluster, but we did recognize that it is a separate cluster, peace and security, so we have combined it in the branding and the labeling of this cluster, because we thought that there are urgent things that we need to, that you need to account on to the public, which will not be able to wait for the scheduling of the peace and security cluster, which will be next year. So that's why we had to include you in this one. But thank you very much for being available, and thank you for all the chairpersons for their presentations on those issues that we have indicated. Colleagues, esteemed members of the media and stakeholders, are there any questions? You're sorted. You will be the first, you'll be the second, you'll be the third, you'll be the fourth, and in that order. Just mention your name and your organization.
Hi, I'm Theo Lintemba from Independent Media. I do apologize because I have quite a few questions. I'll try to go through them quickly. Just to start with the committee on the cluster on education, is the number of schools and candidates for closure known? And also, has the education department also said what the cost of vandalism is in Eastern Cape schools? Secondly, does the committee have any insight into whether the Eastern Cape Education Department has laid criminal charges against the deputy principals allegedly involved in human trafficking? Honourable Feni, you said that infrastructure in Eastern Cape schools is becoming worse with no clear accountability. Honourable Letsi, you also touched on a similar issue at universities. How, as a committee, do you tend to ensure that consequence management is carried out for those who should be held accountable? Next, earlier this year, social media law expert Emma Sadlier took Meta to court just regarding Instagram handles and WhatsApp channels for posting child sexual abuse images. Last year as well, a Western Cape school made headlines for children being sold on auction. So the pervasiveness of bullying has become more of an issue. How are you sort of going to tackle that to ensure that there's enough regulations to protect the children? Because it almost seems like bullying, and especially with regards to the relationship with social media, is worsening within the country. And then with regards to the University of Fort Hare, is it known how many university students are facing disciplinary action because of the protests? You also mentioned that an independent assessor at Fort Hare has been appointed. Do you have a timeline on when they might be expected to give a report on their findings, and also just a timeline of when the assessor would be in place? And then lastly, just for the honourable member of the Correctional Services, last week Police Minister Becky Cele told the Parliament Ad Hoc Committee that prisons are hubs for planning crimes in South Africa. Do you just have comment on that, and has it been a point of concern? So thank you. I apologize for all the questions.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News. For the basic education oversight visits, how satisfied are you from your visits that these schools, given what you've said about infrastructure and the like, how prepared are they for the universal implementation of grade R, given what you've just told us? And then to Ms. Ramalobeng, in terms of the bread contract you spoke of, why is it necessary for the department to have such service level agreements? Is it an incapacity of prisons to be able to produce enough bread to feed their own population? And Theo asked so many questions, I forgot. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, I've just remembered. For Mr. Letsie, there have been several reports in recent days about students allegedly using their NSFAS allowances for online gambling. And given what you've said about students running out of money and not able to afford their tuition, what do you make of those reports, and what do you think should be done about it if true? Thank you.
Thank you. Celine?
Good morning, Zelene Merrington from SABC. I'm also interested in the correctional services question about what the former police minister said last week. And then the basic education chairperson, will you be following up, and how long will you give the basic education department to have all schools implement a comprehensive anti-bullying strategy? And the higher education, is it clear if any of the academic records were destroyed in the process, and the effect thereof on the students, please? Any impact?
Good morning. I'm Bouwer van der Eems from SA Homeschoolers, and I'm also a resident of Milnerton. Many parents turn to home education to give their children the individual and safety that schools cannot guarantee. The Bella Act, however, treats home education as if it is an institution. It treats a family as an institution. It's fundamentally flawed because it derives its requirements from requirements in the Constitution that are for institutions and not for families. Since families are not institutions, shouldn't the Portfolio Committee for Basic Education collaborate with the Portfolio Committee for Social Development, because home education is a matter of family care? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Was there any other, Dr. Rachel?
Okay.
Should be counting if I ask a question to Honourable Letsi. All right, Honourable Letsi, Rachel Fisher from the Organisation Undoing Tax Abuse. You know, we always ask you questions. So I know this was not covered in your presentation, but I would just like to touch on the CETAs. We know that it's also been getting a lot of media attention. If we look at the INCETA has 4 qualified audits by now, and we also look at the paying of many of the CETA CSOs, and you know, if they have dismal performance, how does that then equate to the salaries that they receive? Because I mean, this is questionable. And then we also would like to know about the current status of the appointment of the independent chairpersons at the CETAs, and how that is going, because we also raised a couple of red flags regarding those independent appointments. And then my final question is, in one of the previous cluster briefings, we did query you regarding the support for whistleblower compensation. Now, also, if we consider concerns regarding security, you know, how do we protect whistleblowers if they do contribute to our overall awareness of wrongdoings in state institutions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think those are the questions. In the order that you came, you know, not all of you have got, you are close to the mic. I just checked, there is no question online. Honorable Fanny, are you going to use the mic? But those who are, the mic is not closer to you, you just...
I think they will share.
Here.
They will share.
Yeah.
Yeah, sharing is caring. No, thanks once again, and then also thanks for the questions that have been asked to us. The first question around the question of schools that are candidate for closure. Yes, indeed, there is a list of those schools that were highlighted. For instance, Padium is one of those schools. Due to the number of learners that are available there, there is a categorization that they are utilizing as the department in ensuring that necessary resources are utilized efficiently, as we understand that there is a little bit of lack of resources. So there is that list. However, due to the distances and then where these schools are located, some of them, even though they are candidates for closure, but if you look in terms of the distances and coupled with the question of challenges on the scholar transport, they are given an opportunity just to see if are there any improvements that one might find. So there is that list. However, it is not easily to be strictly applying it due to you know, those challenges that have been looked into. On the question of vandalism, yes, indeed, I remember one of the schools. There is a case is Zanolwazi, where the kitchen was broken into, and the perpetrator was identified by members of the community, and a case was opened. So the person is undergoing necessary court processes to conclude the matter. So the members of the community, your SGBs, are involved in ensuring that the schools are becoming a safe place. They are no longer heaven for criminals. However, it is a challenge also due to where they are situated. Sometimes it's difficult, and there is no security that are looking after the schools due to the lack of resources, but dependent only on the communities to look to those schools. So indeed, there is a action that is being taken, and it is followed as such. On the question of the so-called pastor, deputy principal, there is a case that has been opened. The department is just waiting for the finalization of the process of bail, because the bail was indeed denied, and they are forming part of ensuring that the bail is not being granted. But the process now that is going to be undertaken immediately that is out, due processes of internal processes will be followed. But the department had assured that us that it's an immediate suspension, because it cannot just be a violation of the labor laws in terms of just firing a person without due processes, because we are also encouraging that there must be no lawlessness. Necessary processes as per legislation and constitution must be followed. The question of bullying it is becoming, a norm in our schools, and it worries a lot. It worries a lot. Hence, we are saying that it can be an accepted behavior in our schools, especially on our kids, because these are still small kids. You can imagine a society that is grooming bullies unattended, especially to certain particular schools. If you look how this thing came about, it was involving certain parents, where especially around the question of transformation of our school, and it became now an uncontrollable behavior, which is mainly was based to a particular race. So hence we said, we allow it to continue, it is going to be a situation that is going to be untenable. Hence we are pleading with the department, specifically if we look as we are alleging as a select committee, where these have originated. So it's an unbecoming reinforcement of the law is necessary, specifically when it comes to the Bella Act. Indeed, it does criminalizes some of this behavior. So there is no two way about it. There is no other way that we can call it. I think I've managed to cover. Then, if there is any other question that I've left behind, Honorable Joy will be able to. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the questions. Let me start with the issue of the bullying, cyberbullying. How it is not only bullying now in schools. Learners carry cell phones, so those incidences now end up on social media spaces. They go viral. And as a result, there's some form of a second-hand bullying, second-hand victimization, where the learner, and these are children, of course, they need to be protected. Without the consent of the parent, without their consent, they are on each and every person's phone. And that is why we said to the department, it is not enough that you just have code of conduct where you address bullying. We've got to address bullying in the current context. As a result, these anti-bullying comprehensive policies must speak to that, must actually incorporate the Children's Act, the different rights that children have, and the do's and don'ts, because children do, many people do, learners in the school carry cell phones and they take videos and they just share the videos. And that shows you that there is also a lack of an awareness on the part of learners on how to deal with sensitive material that involves other learners who are minors and on social media spaces. So the comprehensive anti-bullying policy is aimed at dealing with those. How do you educate comprehensively our children to understand how to deal with those incidences and the social media space? The implementation of compulsory grade R, it is implemented, in many of the provinces, there is no issues in terms of the implementation of grade R. What is an issue though, is because of the challenges of infrastructure, the curriculum component and how the pedagogy of teaching grade R is not fully implemented. So we were made to understand that the grade R curriculum is also infused with some playtime. So the class has to be a certain size. There has to be certain things in the class so that it actually caters for the curriculum of grade R learners. And in many schools, that is not there. So even the playground, the play areas are not there, especially your schools in the townships, your school in rural areas. So it is being implemented. Those are the challenges. And we believe that the department ought to look at how do you fund this provision, because it's compulsory. So you need to also then allocate funding to it to ensure that you provide quality grade R classrooms. We wanted to give the department a month to ensure, to come back to us and report on how they have assisted schools and districts to ensure that schools have a comprehensive anti-bullying. But that would not be practical, given the fact that schools are currently busy with examinations. And if it is going to be a policy that can be implemented effectively, you're going to have all stakeholders participating in developing those policies. So you need parents, because the issue of bullying also reflects on how the children are raised by ourselves. It's an issue of discipline, it's an issue of values, it's an issue of character as well, and it reflects on households. So you're going to have parents that participate in developing this anti-bullying comprehensive policies. So we then extended it to say we'll give the department at least 4 months, because at least the first term they should go around, also educate parents about, for example, like what you're saying, Children's Act, what does it say? How should they report? How should they support a child that comes home and say, I have been bullied? Other parents will say, well, I just tell my child to go fight back. So we need to have a conversation as parents and society and all stakeholders if we are going to have effective anti-bullying policies, because we can have policies in place, but if they're not effective, then we've not really dealt with the issue. Homeschooling and collaboration with DST. The Act recognizes homeschooling as a legal and a legitimate education alternative. And what the Act sought to do, because the Act, the South African Schools Act says that even an independent school cannot provide education that is inferior to the education curriculum or education quality or standard that is provided by the public department. As a result, the Act sought to recognize this homeschooling as a legitimate alternative. But the regulation is really meant to assist parents in terms of ensuring that the curriculum content and the assessment that is undertaken by parents is not inferior. So it's not meant to really make the process more stiff, but it is meant to enhance homeschooling by giving parents more support to ensure that the academic curriculum that they teach their children at home and also the assessment are not inferior, so that the learner can also, after being homeschooled, they can be able to access higher education or any other opportunity after homeschooling. I do agree that there should be some collaboration, and these are issues that we'll raise with the Department of Basic Education on the collaboration with DST, because it is important. Even in public schools, higher education does collaborate with DST on many other matters. So it should extend to homeschooling. And I don't think that the registration, the compulsory registration, it's meant to look at the family as just an institution, but it is meant to really provide support. And I think that was the basis, the foundation of the engagements during the Bella Bill consultations with parents. I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, the demo tap. I'm happy that we only have a few questions this time around. The first one, maybe let me start with the online gambling issue. It's a concern because, so let me paint a picture for you what an NSFAS allowance, majority of our NSFAS beneficiaries use it for. So many of these students, they not only take this allowance to take care of themselves, some of them or many of them also support their families at home. And this is a reality. So that is why when we are fighting with the NSFAS, that if you don't give them this allowance, you are creating a big problem. So when NSFAS takes time to pay allowances, so what these kids do, they probably borrow from each other, those who have received, then they try their luck. And I'm not condoning them wanting to gamble. We don't agree with it. We don't think they should gamble, but it's the system that we have created that creates this problem for ourselves. So to get rid of these things, NSFAS must distribute allowances on time so that these kids don't find. And by the way, this is not a South African problem alone. You'll remember, I think, I don't know if you know that there was an article again written in July 2024 about UK students, where about 80, I think the article was saying about 88,000 UK students were also, these ones were found to be in deep debt because of gambling, online gambling. And we don't want to get there. We do have support mechanisms on, or we should have support mechanisms on campus, to help our students who are going through these things. The entity is called Higher Health. Whether it's doing what it should be doing or not, maybe we can have that discussion. But the department would have put that particular process in place to want to appeal to all students that they should not. But also, I think there must be proper regulations with this online gambling things. I mean, I don't know what mechanisms must be put in place, but to have students registered on your online platforms, gambling platforms, creates a bit of a problem for that. So maybe we must, with the gambling boards and all of that, have a discussion. And it's not only students; it's other people who, some of them even sell their houses, and creates a big problem for us. Outer, the salaries of CEOs versus their performance. It's not only salaries of CEOs in our view. Yes, we are concerned about that a person doesn't perform well. As see, when I speak about sitters now, there's something on my throat. Maybe I'm not supposed to speak about that. Not only sitters, we strongly believe that the performance or the salary of any individual, including vice chancellors, I mean, in our view, the vice chancellors were paid far more than the work they were carrying at that institution. The research output of that institution did not match, in our view, the salaries of those particular people. The number of students of that particular institution does not match. I mean, you would get other institutions paying vice chancellors less when the research output is high, when the number of students, the institution is generally bigger, and all of that. So what creates this problem is that the negotiations of salaries of these people happen at board and council level. So it's them who say, Vice Chancellor, we want to extend your term or are giving you a new contract, and the department is not involved. Who is involved is the board or the council of that particular institution. So currently we have asked the department that they must submit to us as part of their annual performance plan, the review on legislation, so that including on the Skills Development Act to cover exactly what you're talking about, Higher Education Act to cover others, and CET Act to cover the TVET colleges and all of that. So we're in the process of reviewing legislation so that the department can have a role to play in such things, because even if we've given you a contract, to say you have a 5-year contract, there must be performance related targets, and if you don't reach them, then there must be discussions about that particular call. You don't wait for it to lapse. It is true. I mean, we're worried not only in our sector. The issue of or the support that is given to whistleblowers, it's a serious concern, and it should be a serious concern for all South Africans, that there are people who risk their lives by saving or trying to save some institutions. We went to UKZN, or we went to KZN 3 weeks back, and on the 9th of October we were doing oversight at UKZN. And some whistleblowers gave us some valuable information that, by the way, the university themselves had to agree that they had not covered it on their presentation. So if we had not received this thing, we would not have known. We would have went and left without knowing that the current acting director of risk management services of that institution was put there without a university process. So he's acting in the university as an acting director. It's a huge position, put in that position. But how he's put there is the company was appointed to run that thing, and then this person was then seconded to be this particular person. Worst part is that this particular person himself would have been a former employee of the university who the university has not responded to us on that one. They said they're going to look at it, but the allegations, which, by the way, we don't have any reason to doubt because of the other information that they've given us, is that the person would have left the university under a cloud, was charged, and before the process could conclude, he resigned, and then he comes back as a director of this particular company. Then this particular company seconds him to be the head of, serious problems. So I agree with you about risk management, about whistleblowers. I believe that generally, as a country, we should have a discussion. Academic records destroyed at University of Fort Hare, So University of Fort Hare, when we're engaging with them, in their presentation, I was trying to get the slide here, which slides...
Maybe, Chair, while you are dealing with that subject, I just seeing a question now. Maybe you can deal with also if during the oversight you were able to determine the cost of the damage of the infrastructure as well as the academic record. I see a question that just came up. So,
yeah, it will be it will be difficult. I don't have the skills to determine the cost of the damage. What the university had indicated, firstly, the damage was between 250 and 500 million. When we were there, they indicated that they're estimating it to be around 300 million. We don't have the skills to say this is what they had. They told us that some of the equipment they had was very expensive, especially in the agriculture building. So they had lost a lot of things. So in the presentation, to go back to the academic records issue, So what happened that the admin building they had burned down, almost all of it. And according to the university, they are saying, so the registration data of those who are currently in the system burned down there. The registration or because we asked them, can alumni of the university be worried, or must they be worried that their records would have been destroyed? So according to their presentation, the one that they gave us, the slide 17, indicated that, number one, they've got a problem with employee records from 1998 till 2022. They were lost in the fire, so employee records. And obviously the questions would have asked them is that, so are you saying tomorrow we'll not get a case where you have people who claim to be working for you, you know, this thing of ghost employees from, especially between, who were recorded between 1998 to 2022, and they said no, but files from 2022 coming this way, they did say that they were digitalized. So those ones from 2022 moving this way, they have them on digital platform, but before that, they don't have. They did also indicate that records from 1920 to 1990, academic records of those who have went to University of Fort Hare were destroyed. And then we asked them again, does that mean I can come and claim and said I graduated in 1989 from this institution, and you know, is there any way? So when they came back, initially on their presentation, the lady who was presenting there, Dr. Nen, presented that those records are destroyed. But when we're asking the question, and we even joked in that meeting, we said, because she came back and she changed, she said they will have a way of verifying somewhere. So they do have some processes, like for an example, minutes of Senate that confers degrees and all of that. Those ones are still there because they're probably offices of Senate are somewhere. So, but they did indicate. So we even joked with them saying that maybe the VC WhatsApp Dr. Nene to say, no, this one you must change there, because all of a sudden they did indicate in their presentation that they lost the records. And then when they came back, they said, no, they can verify using other mechanisms. And one of the other mechanisms was the minutes of Senate, which sit before anybody is given these things. On how many students are facing DC there, honestly speaking, we don't know. We're told that the former president was suspended as a president of the SRC and not as a student. And then the deputy president was then appointed by the dean of students, which was also irregular in its own, because anybody who can appoint is the students themselves. That is why people vote. It's like saying IEC ran elections, and then the president was elected democratically, got ill. And IEC said, no, we then appoint the deputy president. They don't go to a political party in this instance that says, the constitution says you must forward the name. They just bring a person themselves. So it was highly regular. So when they appointed the deputy president, he was also charged and removed as the president there. So we don't know how many students are facing disciplinary cases there. The institution, I think it's part of the questions that we left with them to give us in writing. But we're extremely worried. I mean, what led to this day? And I'm moving now to the IA that you asked me about, the independent assessor. So So there's 4 or 5 big things there that would have happened. The first thing is that students write a memorandum to both management and council. Now, before they do so, management fails to convene elections. They wait for the term of office of the SRC to lapse. They knew last year, the constitution says 1 year in office, at the end of September, elections must have been held or your term of office would have lapsed. So that is something that did not come as a shock, that we have elections that must be held by this time. So they don't hold elections. At the end of September, which is the first thing that would have sparked problems, is that the university then says, because we, as the university, did not hold elections for you, we are going to, your term of office has lapsed, you are disbanded, we are going to appoint an interim SRC for you. Then the student said, no, you can't do that. Because you are going to appoint people that will listen to you. It will literally be you as management, having management in form of students. We don't agree with that particular issue. And we raised issue with both management and council because the initial response or excuse of council when we put it to them that they should have avoided this day. They were saying, no, by the time they spoke to students, it was 9 days before the term expired. But you can't come to us and say it's 9 days before. You knew last year when they were elected that on this day, you are going to have elections. And for us, we saw that as council having failed their duties in this instance by allowing the term to lapse. So the first one was having SRC elections. We felt it could have been avoided. And any excuse that they are bringing there, for us, it doesn't make sense. You knew from the beginning that at the end of September, you must have had elections. That was 1. 2, students then write to you, both management and council, and say, here's a memorandum, we demand to have elections. Yes, the term has expired, we don't agree with, we don't want an interim SRC, we want you to respond to this memorandum of demands. And management and council don't respond to those demands. They don't actually even acknowledge receipt of those things. In fact, there's even a video where students walked on campus to give this memorandum to the vice chancellor. And in that video, he turns back and goes back. And then because there were some students behind him and said, VC, we just want to give you this thing. He said, hey, push them away from himself. So the attitude of management at that time would have escalated this problem, created a problem, management and council, in our view. So if they had responded to those 2 issues, it would have helped. The third issue is the safety of students. Like I said, there's 2 young female students who died on campus. I think the other one was in May, the other one was now in August or July. What is worse, okay, so the other one was found hanging, is the one I was talking about. The second one fell. There's what the university calls a heritage canal where they can't close it, but water used to go to some farm there with that canal. So it's a very steep, 6-7 feet tall or deep canal. So apparently a young female was from a party or something, then fell in there, and then she was found dead in that particular canal. Students then are making allegations that the family of that particular student would have indicated that this report that comes when a person has died, what we call it, autopsy, says that she was raped as well, which is a very serious concern because she was on campus, even the party or whatever was on campus. They also claim this one that was found hanging there. The family told them that the child was raped. So, but the university could not deny or confirm because they said the family had not communicated that. So the issue of safety of students was raised as part of what was sent to both management and council, and they did not respond to that. Then the fourth issue was the issue of the extension of the term of office of the Vice Chancellor. And this one, they raised it on, two ways. The first one was the Vice Chancellor was given a term. And if you read the university's statute, it says that a Vice Chancellor can be given a term of anything between 0 and 5 years. So the university gives a Vice Chancellor a contract. And when they do so, they follow process. The process would have been IF and Senate are consulted on the appointment of senior management. It's part of the university statute. But the university also has what they called, what did they corrected as in the meeting, what of service, something to that effect. But that then guides sort of the guidelines to employment at that university. And it says that the retirement age of that university is 65. So it also says when you turn 65, the university can extend your contract, but you can only extend your contract up to 12 months. And then you'll go back again and renegotiate. So in this instance, the VC was given a contract, and then he turned 65, then in September this year. And then the council then met and extended the contract by 16 months. Now, and this is an issue of a legal interpretation. The first one was that extending it, yes, but it would have been a 3-term extension, which is against what the statute speaks about. So they were saying even extending that term was illegal because you had given him a contract, the second term. And if you extend now, it's a 3rd term. So council interpretation is that no, it's within 5 years. So it's a term, like I said, it's a legal interpretation. The second point was that when you extend him beyond 65, when you extend him beyond 65, you can only go 12 months, and you have won 16 months, which is a problem. And they said, no, because it was within the 5 years of that contract, the 12 months does not apply here, which is the second, thing on that particular issue. So these were the issues that they raised with management and council, and management and council had failed to at least go and explain these things to us. They tried to explain it to us, and they had informed us that they've asked for a legal opinion on this matter. We informed them last week that how you source a legal, so we asked them, how did you source a legal opinion? But we asked the legal team or the legal division of the university to get the legal opinion. For us, again, it was a mistake on behalf of council because the legal division of that institution reports to the same vice chancellor. And we are saying to them, they must go get a legal opinion on whether he's appointed correctly or not. And therefore, we then said, council itself, this is the 5th reason where we said council, the state of student residences. I mean, I don't think I'm doing justice. The state of student residences there, we told them there is none of them there who will allow their children to even sleep. And at those students, there's one there called Jabav. Behind it, there's sewage running. They are subjecting these children to live in very bad conditions. So we don't think they've executed their duties well as council and management, and therefore we then ask the minister to consider appointing an independent assessor to check whether these people are fit to run that institution. So section 43 and 44 would then say the minister must consult with council So we'll hear from the minister whether they are proceeding with that. We don't know whether he has been appointed or not. But the minister, to follow the act, he must consult with the same council, probably write to them on the allegations that we have given to him for them to respond. Hopefully this time they will respond, and when they respond, it will make sense. But from where we're seated, this will be the only solution. I mean, we've lost 500, maybe according to the university, infrastructure with 300 million there, according to them. Somebody must be held accountable. You can't lose infrastructure of 300 million based on in our view, the decisions that we have taken or not taken would have created that thing. I mean, that strike in our view could have been avoided. And because management and council failed to respond to the demands of the city, they forced students to go on strike. If there was SRC elections there on time, that strike would not have been there. If management and council would have responded on the appointment of the extension of the contract of the vice chancellor, that strike will not have been there. If management and council would have assured students that we are doing something on the safety and security of students here, that strike would not have been there. If they would have taken care, I mean, you know, we asked them, how much have you spent last year alone on fixing maintenance of student accommodation? They said 40 million. I told them, CFO, we just talked all of those. There's no 40 million there. You could not see it, not even in paint, not even in hot water, because there's not been hot water, not even in servicing of geysers. There will not have been 40 million there. And, you know, we then said they must go and say, okay, this 40 million, this is how much we've spent on this thing. Maybe you bought globes. I mean, there are no windows. Eh? No windows. Guru, you spent 40 million, but we don't see 40 million there. You know, so if they would have taken care of maintenance of those, there would not have been strikes there. So the decision by management and council has cost us that 300 million, because it is as an unintended consequence of their decision or non-decision that would have led to strikes there. And they're pointing fingers at each other. It's this one who banned, this one who banned. Management says it's student says it's management, and all of that. Sometimes management says it's politicians there because of the academic fraud that would have happened. So they're pointing fingers at each other, and we said on that one, we don't want political statements. Let's have a forensic investigation, investigate this thing, get to the bottom of what would have happened, so that whoever is responsible must be arrested. And that I'm also covered the issue of consequence management. We believe that the actions of council and management there would have led to us losing infrastructure of 300 million, and somebody must be held accountable. And in this case, it must be management and that particular council. I think I've covered everything. Yeah, thank you very much.
Last response from Honorable Ramolove.
Thank you, Program Director. I'm adopted to the media briefing, so I don't have a mic. That was just to break ice. I think I have only 3 questions, and in the 3, 2 are similar. That seeks clarity on what the former Minister of Police would have said in the ad hoc committee last week. I think I had a brief discussion with Mava and the committee secretary before we can start the media briefing, anticipating that such a question might come. Was I ready for it? No, but it was already there in the mind. Look, What the former minister would have made an indication is on the issue of smuggling of contrabands that the department is facing across all correctional facilities, which, as the portfolio committee, we've been strongly advocating for unannounced searches or visits that the department must do in all facilities. And we've seen that with the National Commissioner going around certain facilities doing unannounced, and we've encouraged even all centers must follow that suit. And I would have made an indication that Oudtshoorn would have done that unannounced, and then the following day inmates retaliated with 4 officials being stabbed because of they didn't want or didn't like being searched, and that search would have seized some of the contrabands, and amongst those, a high number become cell phones in instances of this searches. And we've consistently even advocated for the department to say they must find other measures to try prevent contrabands finding themselves in correctional facilities. That has been one of our strong points in the portfolio committee meetings, if you follow them. And amongst those would have even, I think this was a call that we've made last year, that perhaps we should look into ideas of having cell phone jammers in correctional facilities. Obviously, CASA must come on board on that instance to look at how can that be done, but also be cognizant that whilst you have cell phone jammers, you must not affect the residentials, those who are around, because of some of the correctional facilities are around the residents. So if you jam the facility so that you make sure that inmates, even if they have cell phones, because either way, they find a way of having this contrabands with them, they are unable to use them. But whilst you don't also affect residentials that are around, equally affect the running of the facility in terms of a network and so forth. So this is something that we've echoed to the department, it must look into, and I know they're looking into it. Whilst they've concluded that matter, they will come before the portfolio committee and present whether the possibility of enrolling this process. We further encourage them to do the unannounced. I think even last week, when we concluded our portfolio committee meeting, I asked the National Commissioner, I haven't seen him in a while doing unannounced visits. And then he made an indication that there is a plan that they're coming up with to strengthen those unannounced visits. Equally, we've echoed that those who are found with contrabands in correctional facilities, whether officials smuggling, assisting in smuggling, or inmates that are found, they must be criminally charged. And in that criminally charging process, so if it's officials, they will be criminally charged. And then if it's inmate, it's a further charge. So if you are in a facility for armed robbery, there will be a further charge on top of that charge you are in the facility on. We've encouraged that. We've encouraged the multidisciplinary interdepartmental programs, which brings in SAPS as well on board, Home Affairs on board for those unannounced, so that immediately you are found with that contraband right there, SAPS can open a case for further charge on those inmates. I spoke to and I reiterated on the statement. I made mention on the security system that is being enrolled in St. Albans, which once completed, it will detect the smuggling of contrabands. It will also work together with body scanners. You will not be able to unplug, because the situation currently is that they are in some facilities, there are body scanners, but officials find a way, allegedly, to unplug them or to say they're not working, so that it becomes easy for them to be able to bring in those contrabands. But in what the former minister would have said, if there is evidence that says some of these inmates are colluding with some crimes and they are instigators, SAPS must come on board and criminally add charges on top of that, or add on existing charges, so that we don't leave them. We don't say there is crimes that are committed or are being planned in prisons, but we do nothing about it. We're not assisting. who are just speaking on rhetoric things without actions to it. So if there is such and there is evidence, I don't think the National Commissioner will refuse for those identified to be further, to put them on further charges. Like for instance, the Lusugi Sigimet, it had been found allegedly that some of the cell phones to plan for those, there is further charges added to that. So if there is evidence, let SAPS add on top of existing charges on those inmates who are found. And once the ad hoc committee has completed its work, it is expected to send a recommendation to the Speaker on their findings and what they are recommending should be done. Then once it's that, and if it affects the Portfolio Committee on Correctional Services on some of those assertions the former minister has made, then it will come to us, and the Portfolio Committee at that particular time will then be able to interact and deal with that matter, so that we formulate our own recommendation that needs to go to the department. And if it equally needs to cut across the sister departments in the justice cluster, we deal with it at that particular aspect. On the bread issue or the service level agreement issue, what the department has done in the service level agreement between them and the suppliers or those who are being awarded, who are bidders, they've put a provision of 6 months to review prices, which we have commended the department for that, because if that was not part, it means the appointment that they've made in April on those who have been appointed on the non-perishable and perishable goods, which inclusive of supplying of bread, they would be continuing to supply bread on an inflated prices of bread. So because of that, we then recommended to the department they must go back, renegotiate, because of there's that clause. And that renegotiation of the bread price has gone down on a flat rate across all correctional facilities, which currently will save the department 11 million from the onset of April. So we are commending them for that. We are not commending them for going back to renegotiate, because they should have done that the onset they appointed the bidders or suppliers. We're commending them on putting that provision in the SLA, because it will now allow them every 6 months to renegotiate. And in this instance, we've even indicated to them, they must not only focus now on the bread matter, they must also look at other items in those contracts: meat, supplying of meat, supplying of vegetables, rice, and so forth. Whether are all those items on the flat rate, if they are not inflated on that. But again, outside that, we will receive a report, because we've said to the department, they must go investigate whether this inflation of prices is not a collusion between officials and the suppliers or bidders, and bring a report to the Portfolio Committee, and then we deal with that aspect. But currently, the department has 12 operational bakeries across all centers. So it relies on supplies in other correctional facilities. So until it would have added, they've indicated by 2028, they would have added 8 additional bakeries, which will take them to 20. But we've realized that the 2 bakeries which are ready, they are only left with few equipments to complete for them to be fully operational, which is Pietermaritzburg and Kalagabusha in KZN. We've given them a timeline up until December to go and procure whatever that is outstanding to have those bakeries full operationals, because they are ready. And then they will add the additional 8. So the additional 8 that they will add, it will take the department to 22 bakeries. But for now, until there is bakeries across facilities, the department will have to rely on supplying of bread by suppliers or bidders, those who are awarded those contracts. But one of the reasons why we had indicated to the department that they need to go renegotiate, we've indicated there are some, I don't want to say suppliers but those who were previously supplying correctional facilities. Remember, before the contract was centralized, they were directly dealing with centers. So there are those who wrote letters to the minister, equally to the portfolio committee, indicating that the cost of bread currently by the current contractors is highly inflated. And when we brought the department before the portfolio committee around March or May, around the matter, we did realize that indeed the bread matter was inflated. And it's on that basis that we then recommended to them to go back, renegotiate with suppliers, and they had made that indication that there is that provision that allows them. So because of that, we then commended them. But we said, the coming contracts, which are it's a coal that needs to start on the 1st of November. There is the cleaning contracts that I don't know when it's going to start or if they've concluded on the matter. They must negotiate with bidders or suppliers that are going to be contracted on a flat rate pricing, not the inflation that they presented last time. So, but what the portfolio committee has decided on is that every 6 months we'll call the department on procurement and supplying or contracts matters to see whether the costs or the contracts are not on inflated basis, outside looking at giving us a report on investigations, whether there was collusion between officials and those who are bidding. But the AG would have equally flagged the inconsistencies of pricing across facilities. So that's why the department then decided to centralize, because you'll find a facility in Johannesburg, which is for Johannesburg Correctional Facility, which is formerly known as Sunset, would, for instance, supply bread. Those who are supplying will supply bread at 20 rands. You'll find a facility in George is supplying bread on 25 rands. You'll find one facility in Eastern Cape is supplying bread at 18 rands. So there were inconsistencies of pricing, which the AG kept on flagging every year when it audits the departments, and it becomes one of their findings. So for possible solutions to avoid that, then they centralize the contracts. But outside that, we said, even on the centralization of contract, it must be contractors that are appointed that are compliant. The AG has flagged about 16 to 17 companies or contracts on the non-perishable and perishable goods, which have been awarded, that some of them are non-compliant, which they will come before the portfolio committee in detail, because they need to give us a report on those companies. And we've made an indication that we hope some of those companies are not reappointed or appointed on the coal contracts, because of if you would be appointing them again when they are non-compliant on the non-perishable, you are not dealing or remedying the situation. But the complete one will come before the portfolio committee from the department. So on the SLA, I think I have covered. I'm not sure if I would have left anything. Mr. Matapo, you will indicate. Thank you so much.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Let me indeed thank, okay, sorry. To show that I'm closing, I must be here. So that I don't give the impression that we are going to take another round of heads. So that's why I need to be here. But let me thank you, members of the media, our esteemed stakeholders, both physically and virtually, for your attendance and for the engagement. The engagement are very important. As I said previously, that they are part of building our constitutional democracy. There is nothing that can not be resolved through dialogue and through sharing of ideas, because the things that, for instance, stakeholders raise here, they don't end here. They don't just get responded here, and that is the end. The chairpersons are very critical in steering the agenda of their committees, and through oversight, they engage and hold accountable those who account to those committees on issues that you raise here so that they are resolved. So you will be surprised at how many things get resolved that are raised here. So it's very important continuous dialogue, and we'll continue to do so. We are very grateful for your attendance. Thank you very much to the honorable chairpersons for availing themselves on Monday. I always say that for Mondays, it's a constituency day for the members of parliament. But we do ask them from time to time to come and miss that engagement with their constituencies, to come and account not only to their constituencies, but to the entire country, to the entire nation. So we are really grateful for them making time to do so. Thank you very much to the colleagues in Parliamentary Communication Services for always enabling this kind of engagement to take place. This brings us to the end of our engagement today. We'll probably have one or two before we rise for the December recess. Thank you very much. The press briefing has adjourned. This is something to take away, a lunch, finger lunch next door, as you know. Please just get something to eat before you leave.